Yes. Yes, it is. Under literally every single context, yes, it is. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. Fun fact, I do happen to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. And another fun fact, I like to yap. Quite a bit, I'd say. I am something of a yapper myself, you know. And thusly, the link to Lumiere's channel in the original video will be in the description down below. This video is 8 minutes and 4 seconds long. I promise you, from the bottom of my little heart, that this video right here will be longer than 8 minutes and 4 seconds. I recorded another video that was like 8 minutes and 52 seconds. It turned out to be over an hour. I don't even know how I did that. I need to start looking at the timer. Like I want to start like just tripling videos, not like multiplying them 10 times over. So regardless, the link to the original video will be in the description down below, along with a link to Lumiere's channel. He's a fantastic JJK content creator, so if you're trying to get your JJK fix, go peep, he'll be down below. But for the concept of the video itself, and what my own ideas are on it before I let Lumiere get his wrist of whipping up in the kitchen, is Limitless actually better than 10 Shadows? To go with the question that is being presupposed and argue for the 10 Shadows' sake, I will give one thing. The Limitless is seemingly enough only useful, only even feasible to use if you have the 6 eyes. If you have the 6 eyes. If you do not have the 6 eyes, the Limitless is worthless. You literally cannot use it. You cannot use it. Even a character born with the 6 eyes is not guaranteed to unlock the full depths of the Limitless. The ult of the Limitless, or the non-domain ult of the Limitless, Hollow Purple, is literally not accessible unless you are an awakened 6 eyes user, which is very hard criteria to meet. So I will give that. The 10 Shadows technique, while it only starts you with the Divine Dogs, that's better than literally nothing, because that's presumably all you'd have if you had the Limitless but no 6 eyes. If that's even possible to be born with, we don't really know. But with that being the case, I will give that. On that base, low level, then I'd say the Limitless is worse than the 10 Shadows, because the 10 Shadows actually gives you something you can use for free from round start, which is the Divine Dogs. And presumably stuff like the frogs and stuff like the rabbits are relatively easy to tame. It just takes a while. So you basically get 3 for free. Obviously, something like Max Elephant is probably a bit more difficult to tame. Something like Nue is definitely more difficult to tame. You have to somehow chase a flying electric bird. But you basically get 3, technically many more, because the rabbits and the frogs can come in multiples, and the Divine Dogs, which start out as 2. So that, base to base, nothing else given to you, just the 10 Shadows and the Limitless. The 10 Shadows will be better. I'll give that. For the mid-level usage, so let's go with Megami, and we'll go with pre-awakened Teen Gojo. Now, obviously, Teen Gojo's birth really shifted the balance of the world, so he's probably not the best standard for what a 6 eyes Limitless user looks like, but assuming that you at least were given the 6 eyes of the Limitless, and assuming for the 10 Shadows, you at least got some of the Shadows, we'll say half. We'll be like Megami by the time of mid-series. So you have Max Elephant, you have Nue, you have Divine Dogs, you have Frogs, you have Rabbits, and then what else am I missing? Oh, you have Orochi. We'll be like near start of series Megami, you have Orochi. You're only missing Round Deer, Piercing Bull, Morning Tiger, and Maharaga, naturally. I'd say Limitless is already better. Mainly because you have access to Infinity, and you have access to Blue, and that's literally all you need. And so you have the ultimate defensive technique in the universe that most characters, including the 10 Shadows user, would not be able to bypass. And you have Blue, which seemingly, oh, Blue's not all that. It is all that. You can level an entire area just swinging your Blue around. BT dubs, most people just can't hit you. And oh no, a domain. How scary. Learn an anti-domain technique and leave, or just don't get caught, bruh. You can see when they're about to activate domain. You just leave. But even still, bada bing, bada boom, I say Limitless is better, literally because of Infinity alone. Obviously, the 6 eyes come with their own perks, like you basically have unlimited stamina even from round start. Remember, Gojo did not sleep for multiple days at a time when he was a teenager, and nowhere near the mastery of his abilities, but bada bing, bada boom. Say we level it up slightly more. Say we go to a high level mid-tier 6 eyes Limitless user, and we go to a high level mid-tier 10 Shadows user. Presumably this would be the level that the Gojo clan head was and the 10 Shadows user was. You have 9 of the 10 Shadows unlocked. You have Round Deer. You have Piercing Ox. You have Morning Tiger. You just don't have Raga. And we'll say for the Limitless user, Limitless and 6 eyes user, you don't have Either purple or domain expansion. Let's just pick one of those two. But you are awakened now. You have RCT. So I guess we'll say you don't have domain. We'll say neither of the two has domains for one other reason. Limitless is still better. It's always going to be better. Because you don't have to worry about your abilities dying if they fail. If you're a 10 Shadows user and the Limitless user who has red now, and possibly has purple if they feel like it, considering Gojo just instantly performed purple the moment he awakened, then all your shadows die. And then your only resort is Raga. I presume that's what happened in the 400-year battle between the head of the Zenin clan and the head of the Gojo clan. They were likely both fighting. The 10 Shadows user summoned Divine Dogs, died. Summoned Frogs, died. Summoned Rabbits, died. Summoned Morning Tiger, died. Summoned Round Deer, died. Probably did some fusion shadow stuff, all died. And they were like, well, the Stretcher I summoned. And then summoned Raga, and then somehow Raga won. But that's it. And Raga doesn't really, at least in my opinion, he uses Gojo and Sukuna in this cover, because of course he did. But considering it's never been tamed before, Raga should not really count it should count as a perk because you'll win the fight, but you'll both die. So I'm very against counting Raga as a perk for the average or even above average 10 Shadow user. He was a clan head. Presumably he had all 9 of the shadows unlocked except for Big Raga, as no one has tamed it before, as Maggie states. So you can never get the peak of the 10 Shadows if you're just a 10 Shadows user. There are ways, someone brought it up perfectly already. You could, in the modern day, put Piercing Ox on a treadmill, a really high tier treadmill, presumably, then turn the treadmill off, and then throw it at Raga before Raga adapts anything, and it just gets blunt force exploded. But outside of that, because they didn't have that back in 400 years ago in the Edo period, and seemingly Magby couldn't think of it in the modern day, or at least he couldn't tame Piercing Ox in the modern day, that unless you do that, and you get Raga under your control, then I still wouldn't say the 10 Shadows is as good as Limitless. Because sure, you do have the ability to slip into the shadows, but that's not the perfect defense like Infinity is. It is not the perfect offense like Purple is. Or not perfect, obviously Purple isn't perfect, you can take Purple. But still, it's not all that overall, pound for pound, in comparison to what the Limitless has to offer. And the Limitless can go crazy in different ways. You can spawn blues in people. You can likely shove a miniature blue up somebody's nose and watch their head crumple. What shadow is doing that? I can't tell you. What shadow, outside of an adapted Maharaga, is even getting through Infinity? Something that, as I mentioned, the lowest level Infinity user, or the lowest level Limitless user has. The lowest level Limitless plus 6 user has. What are they doing to get through that? Huh? Can't use Raga until they want to both die, so that's not an option. Now. Oh, and then once again, there's shadow slipping, storing stuff in the shadows, but still, it doesn't matter. If you're an Infinity user of the high mid-tier level, you can teleport. So whatever you store somewhere, you can teleport there, pick it up, and teleport back. That's simple, you fold space. But for the highest levels of it, and by the highest levels, you know who I mean. I just mean Sukuna. I'd still say the Limitless is better. Remember, I've said it before, and I'll say it again, and I'll make a whole video talking about it. If you rip Shrine out of the battle, you remove it from Sukuna, he loses to Gojo. 10 out of 10 times. Sukuna, the strongest 10 Shadow user in history, literally had to babysit the 10 Shadows for 75% of that fight. He only let the 10 Shadows out to play when Gojo was already brain damaged, and Maharaga had adapted to the Limitless and could tank hits from it, while Gojo was heavily nerfed. And even then, Gojo still killed it with a limited hollow. So, we see the apex of the 10 Shadows users, who had a whole other technique, go up against the apex of the 6 Eyes, and 6 Eyes and Limitless, and it still didn't work. And you know what's even worse about the 10 Shadows? If you do, say you mastered Big Raga, right? Yeah, you got him. The Divine General, you're built like that for real. Juicy, thick, scrumptious, legendary. Guess what? If you misplay Raga against the Limitless and 6 Eyes user and they kill it, you lose the 10 Shadows. Not just you lose the 10 Shadows and you can't summon anymore. You can't summon any of your other creatures anymore. But you can't even Shadow Slip anymore. Sukuna confirms the moment Raga got destroyed, his 10 Shadows stopped functioning. He couldn't Shadow Slip. He couldn't store things in the shadow anymore. He couldn't do any of that. So you could even lose Raga on a misplay and accidentally kill your whole technique. There's the only way you kill a Limitless user's technique is by killing the Limitless user. But a 10 Shadows user can become literally techniqueless if you kill Raga. Their ultimate ability, which apparently can't be infused by any of the other shadows, seemingly. So you got base Raga, and you better hope you survive. So overall, I cannot see an argument or a universe where At peak, the Limitless is better than the 10 Shadows. Or no, sorry, I said that backwards. The 10 Shadows is better than the Limitless. At the high mid-tier, I can't see a universe with no Raga that the Limitless is worse than the 10 Shadows. At the mid-tier, no red, just blue infinity plus 6 eyes. Even against like the regular mid-tier Shadow user, I still don't see a case where the Limitless user is going to lose to the Shadows user. The only way I see you argue the 10 Shadows is better than the Limitless is if you go at the lowest possible level. And you go with, oh, the Limitless user doesn't have the 6 eyes, so they can't even use the technique. And then the 10 Shadows user does have the Divine Dogs. So they have a technique, the other person doesn't. That's it. That's it. And I suppose the other way you could kill a 6 eyes user without killing a 6 eyes user, aka kill their technique, is rip their eyeballs out. Good luck doing that without Domain Amp, or the ability to get through their infinity. But of course, we've already been yapping for 10 minutes so far, so let's actually hop right into Lumiere's video. Is the Limitless actually better than the 10 Shadows?
The Limitless and 10 Shadows technique are the most powerful techniques within the series. These techniques
I don't think so. I actually don't think the 10 Shadows technique is definitely versatile and definitely powerful, but I would not put it even in top 3. I'd say the Comedian is better, overall. Even if it is a completely subconscious acting ability, it's better than the 10 Shadows. It's reality warping. That's better. I'd say probably copy, a prepped copy. Admittedly, a base copy is literally worthless. You have nothing. But like, if we're going by EOS Yuta copy, just like we're assuming the 10 Shadows user has access to the full variety of their technique, then I'd say a copy user like Yuta has full breadth of access to however many techniques they have. Even EOS Yuta has a full breadth and bag of techniques that's extremely dangerous. I say that's better. That may be it though. Let me try to think of other techniques that are fully better than 10 Shadows. At base, in terms of AP, I'd say something like Star Rage is even better. I'd say, while nothing is as good as Raga, a Cursed Spirit Manipulation user, like Kenjaku or Geto, who has 4,000 spirits they can summon autonomously, 4,000 Shigami, that's better. So that's what Limitless, Copy, and Cursed Spirit Manipulation. I'm not going to include Star Rage. So like, Star Rage is super situational. It has no defensive utility outside of offensive defensive utility. So like I can admit Star Rages and all that. Mythical Clan Beast Amber would be included if only it didn't kill you, but it kills you, so I can't really include that. At least for no, I can't really say that. I mean, Shrine does have defensive utility, but then again, I'm taking Sukuna. Obviously, Yuji's Shrine is kind of butt, so like I wouldn't really include Yuji's Shrine. But if we're talking just Sukuna Shrine and how he's able to use it, the ability to just Durineg your opponents by touching them is crazy. The ability to have imperceptible slashes that you can send out at a highly fast speeds, or even if they were slower, that's actually pretty crazy. The whole Shrine in and of itself is crazy. Once again, that's more of a Sukuna thing. So I wouldn't actually definitively say you can definitely make an argument for Shrine versus 10 Shadows, but that's a possible 4. I'd say darn near, even Angel's technique is actually probably better because she has a passive aura that can dissipate Shikigami. So in a battle between a Limitless or a 10 Shadows user and a Jacob's Ladder or Angel's technique user, the 10 Shadows user is always going to lose. They can't use their technique at all. So it's just a person with a technique that's burning them alive, and we're beating the brakes off them while they're blowing a trumpet. And a regular person at that point with just her energy reinforcement. So even Jacob's Ladder would probably be better. And then I think that's it. I can't really think of like SSK technically, but SSK doesn't really have too much defensive utility, and it's really highly specific to use. Same thing with Inverted Spear of Heaven. Like, sure, it's really powerful. You turn off techniques, but unlike Jacob's Ladder, which does it like in an AOE to turn off techniques, I wouldn't say Inverted Spear of Heaven seems super specific. And if you go by the anime's interpretation of Inverted Spear of Heaven, where like Toji can block with the Inverted Spear, but it still won't turn off the technique, it's extra butt in that case. So I can't really say Inverted Spear, but I think those are like 5 that are better than the 10 Shadows. The 10 Shadows, I don't know. I think it's overrated. I think people glaze Raga too much. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Raga glazer now too. Unbelievably. Sukuna's Raga? Absolutely. I'll glaze it to the moon and back. But no 10 Shadows users wielding Raga. If I give you the 10 Shadows, unless you are a genius who uses the treadmill strat, which may be possible, you aren't getting Raga. And even if you do get Raga, good luck face tanking everything he needs to adapt to. Because if you run into any opponent with large enough scale attacks, they will one-shot Raga. So what's that? So like, I don't know. Well, it has crazy utility. The fact that it starts with just the Divine Dogs, you have to actually work and grind up to get the rest of your ability. And the apex of your ability has never been tamed by a user of your ability alone. Only been tamed by the strongest character in the series. I take a bunch of techniques. Even techniques I think are worse than 10 Shadows. I take Sky Manipulation way before I take 10 Shadows. It's free flight and Duraneg through spatial manipulation, and you can redirect attacks. I'm taking that. I take Karushi's technique before I take 10 Shadows, because at least the cockroaches listen to me immediately. And I have ball bugs that explode. What else am I thinking of? I'm taking Ryu's technique. It's just straight output, but it's the highest output in history. I'll take that. I'll take Shrine. I'll take, well, maybe not Curse Spirit Manipulation. I want to eat balls. I'm not a big ball eater. I ain't gonna lie to you. So like Curse Spirit Manipulation probably off the table, but that's about it. Star Rage, I take that. Copy, I take that. Even if I do have to eat people, I'll make Ryu eat them. Bada bing, bada boom. That's the thing. I'm not really seeing the vision on 10 Shadows. I mean, if you said, hey, would you right now rather have 10 Shadows or keep living as you are? I take 10 Shadows. Naturally. It's always good to have a backup, blow everything up button. But it's not my first pick. It's not my second pick. It's not my third pick. It's not my fourth. It's not my fifth. It's not my sixth. It may just barely reach into the top 10 picks, because JJK doesn't actually have too many techniques in the grand scheme of things. But that's about it. So the strongest, one of the strongest, even at peak utility, I don't really think so. I mean, no. At peak utility, yeah, because if you have Raga and you have all the 10 Shadows and you're using them all at the same time, and ultimately, yeah, it probably is second strong. But like, what do you do? What do you do against Jacob's Ladder? Die? Like, that's it. You just die with immediately turn off your technique. But, and even something like Copy, if it gets Jacob's Ladder and its roster, die. I don't know. I'm not. Maybe because I never saw the full domain expansion of it. Maybe because it doesn't have a maximum technique. Maybe for a variety of... Heck, even something like Auto Transfiguration I take over the 10 Shadows. Same thing with Disaster Flames. I don't have as much curse energy as Jogo, though, so probably way worse on me. Same thing for something like Hanami's Disaster Plants or Dagon's Disaster Water. But still, like, even on average, the Disaster Curses have better abilities than the 10 Shadows. So it's like... I can't really lean a rock with it as one of the strongest. I don't know, but let's see.
Techniques are both looked at as prestigious, but which one is actually better? Is the Limitless actually just overpowered, or is it Gojo's talent that makes it seem that way?
Gojo's talent definitely does play a big factor into it. But let me think, on every level, offensively, I think Purple clears anything the 10 Shadows has to offer. We literally saw that in the interaction with an unlimited holo with Maharaga. Defensively, Infinity clears anything that the 10 Shadows has. Even adapted Raga isn't as good as Infinity. It just isn't. It isn't as good as Infinity, because if a person gets around Raga, which isn't impossible to do, as we've seen, if a person gets around Raga, they can still give you backshots as a 10 Shadows user, and you can hide in the shadows. Hiding in the shadows is nice, but you can drown somebody in the shadows. If they can't fly, they're cooked. So you can drown somebody in the shadows if you drag them in there with you. And then that's technically a win con. But like, even with Infinity, the perfect defensive technique can be turned offensively if you flex Infinity hard enough between another surface. Hypothetically, you could set up a blue behind somebody and then just hard tackle them into it with Infinity active and bulk your Infinity as you chant for the blue, and then boom, they die. So I feel like defensively, outside of the shadow slipping, the 10 Shadows didn't do as well. And utility-wise, sure, there's nothing built into the Limitless that heals you like Round Deer does, but like spatial manipulation. Spatial manipulation on the atomic scale with the 6 eyes. I think that's more utility. Teleportation alone, immediate teleportation, not conditional conditional teleportation, then you need to clap your hands. But outside of that, I think it's a lot easier condition to meet than knowing where a random shadow is in order to teleport long distances. So like, I don't know, we'll see.
In today's video, we will analyze both of the techniques and compare to see which technique is actually better, Limitless or 10 Shadows. I'm going to structure this by analyzing each technique individually in terms of strengths and weaknesses. Once we've dissected both techniques, then we'll do a final analysis, comparing them both to determine which technique is better. We'll start off with Limitless. Now, I'm not going to be explaining Limitless itself, just because I assume at this point in the series, everyone knows how the technique works. So we'll just go straight into the strengths and weaknesses of the technique. The most obvious strength when you think about the Limitless is Infinity. The fact that no one can touch you. And the only real counter is by domain, through either expansion or amplification. But for example, something like amplification is really only gonna help you if you're in that high tier of Sukuna and Gojo. Otherwise, Gojo's just gonna...
Though admittedly, it does seem to work. Like we say it only works on high tier because we're talking about Gojo specifically. And if we are comparing Gojo's usage of the Limitless versus Sukuna's usage of the 10 Shadows, it does get contentious, but I still say Gojo's a better user of the Limitless and Sukuna's a better user of the 10 Shadows because of how much he's optimized it. But DA will probably work if you're relative. So once again, going with the analogy, if the Ten Shadows user knows DA, they won't be able to use their technique, obviously. But they should be able to breach to infinity. The reason Hanami and Jogo couldn't was because Gojo was simply that much stronger than them. So even with amplification, they couldn't get through because it is like an output battle, and they lost the output battle. But if you take a person with even output and a person with even output and give one person the Limitless Infinity and then give one person DA, they'll be able to touch them. The big issue is, though, that if they're exactly relative, one person still having their curse technique in every other aspect, not just Infinity, and the other person not, still like really bad because they don't have their technique and they're fighting someone with a technique. Even though DA does soften attacks. But let's see.
Gonna power through your amplification, just like you did to Jogo and Hanami. But here's also one of the weaknesses of Limitless. Gojo is extremely talented, but some of the stuff he does would just be impossible without the 6 eyes. Within the series, this is...
See, that's the thing. So he's going down that route. No 6 eyes, I agree. Limitless is butt. Because we do not know if you can use it. Notably, remember how Kenjaku is described to have lost twice in the past? To 6 eyes users. Not necessarily Limitless in 6 eyes users, just 6. Look, it says right here. In the past, Kenjaku has twice lost to sorcerers of the 6 eyes. Just the 6 eyes. So maybe you can be born with just one. And we know that Gojo is the first to be born with both in 400 years. But if you can be born with the Limitless no 6 eyes, you're trash. You're butt. You can't use the technique. At least that's what's implied because of how much precise energy control and understanding of creation and information you need to have to use the Limitless technique accurately. So yeah, once again, if you're stripping away the 6 eyes, which is a big thing, I do agree, you do strip that away, yeah, sucks. Because you can't use it. But once again, it's like taking away the hands of a Ten Shadows user. Okay, I guess we're just not going to let them use the technique then. But I get it. That is still an important point. Because at least the series never says that you can use the Limitless without the 6 eyes. But at the same time, considering it's been implied that there have been users of the Limitless without the 6 eyes, and there have been wielders of the 6 eyes without the Limitless, just by the vague phrasing that Gege does all the time, it technically is a version that you need to cover of the Limitless. But I wouldn't say... Well, no, that is technically a weakness of the Limitless because it requires some high-level biological tech, such as the 6 eyes. Let's see.
Stated multiple times, you need the 6 eyes to have a good Limitless. So before we even go on with any of the other strengths, these for the most part are going to be contingent on having 6 eyes. Without 6 eyes, you're cooked. The only other way to counter Infinity is by having a cursed tool like Inverted Spear of Heaven or the rope that Miguel was wielding.
And notably, once again, going by the anime's interpretation, that only counters Infinity. At least the piercing aspect. We don't know if maybe Tochi stabbed the red in the anime, then he would have been able to dispel it. And he does talk in the manga, and I think even in the anime specifically, like, I have Inverted Spear. Red and blue are not a problem. But, I don't know, it looks like a problem told you when you're getting pushed into that wall, when you're being repelled real far. But, with that being the case, if Inverted Spear needs to pierce, then that's the easy to work around. Oh no, you need to stab me in order to turn off my technique? Don't mind me. I'm going to fly high in the sky and just aim blues down at you. Good luck reacting to all of them. Especially like a EOS Gojo can spawn multiple blues at once. Like, come on now. Okay. You're going to use the Inverted Spear? Alright, buddy. Oh, I forget how the chant goes, but Limitless Hollow Purple. Like, you can still get around the Inverted Spear. Or even the Black Rope. And the Black Rope doesn't even seem to work too well. It just disrupts. It doesn't really turn off.
More so Inverted Spear of Heaven than Miguel's rope, because Miguel's rope didn't nullify Infinity. It was just disrupting it. Now, there is a slight misconception about positive energy being able to nullify Infinity. People think this because of the statement Yorozu makes regarding the RCT of one of Maguna's Shikigami. She says, that Shikigami heals through reverse curse technique, so it neutralized the curse energy flowing through my liquid metal. Now, off this, it's understandable why people think positive energy can negate Infinity, but if you add in a little more context to this statement, you'll see why it can't. Yorozu imbues her curse energy into the liquid metal. When the Shikigami used RCT, she lost control of her liquid metal. She says it herself. It doesn't say anything about her technique being cancelled, just that it disrupts her manipulating the liquid metal with her CE.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, it's not too, because it's a really, like he just debunked, it's a really common, it's not that common, because people, when it was first coming out, they're like, oh, RCT, it can work, but like, it doesn't. Especially considering, like, think of it like this. For Yorozu to control the liquid metal, her cursed energy needs to be actively involved in it in order to maintain it. It is literally fused in there. While for something like the Limitless, once you plug in, quote unquote, the Achilles paradox that is infinity, it just maintains itself as long as it stays plugged in. For unplugging it, you would need to remove the source of the cursed energy, not the cursed energy itself that's fueling the technique. Meanwhile, for Yorozu, to shut that down, you just remove it entirely. You remove the cursed energy from it, you remove the battery that powers that machine, quote unquote, and it'll shut down, because it doesn't have anything to power it. Meanwhile, the Limitless, it's like a feed, but it's not directly connected. Like, I wouldn't say the Limitless is, I mean, it's an application of a cursed technique, though, so I suppose it is imbued with cursed energy, but still, it's a little bit more complicated than just use RCT and Infinity will shut off. If it was that easy, Sukuna would have done it. We see he could release RCT. That's it.
The TCB statement makes it clear that it is referring to it just stopping her manipulation of liquid metal, not the technique, because her technique isn't manipulating the liquid metal, it's her creating it, and that's not what's being disrupted. So it's definitely not disrupting the curse technique. Now, Gojo's infinity isn't imbuing his curse energy with anything, he's simply manipulating space. It's all the work of his technique. So as I demonstrated, it shouldn't be affected by positive energy. Now that's all when it comes to infinity. Now we'll talk about blue. Blue doesn't really have any weaknesses. It's great for mobility. It can create distance between you and your opponent. It can clear out an area.
It is the, like, red is cool, but it's so simple. And same thing with purple, it's just destruction. Blue has infinite applications, from teleportation to defensive manipulation to battlefield control to really opponent control. Heck, you could definitively, depending on how strong you make the blue, you could BFR somebody with that. Like, send a blue at them, and then throw the blue somewhere else. They're going to be dragged into it and attached to it. So you could, like, throw someone halfway across the planet, or, like, drown someone if you really felt like it. Blue, it's not the most powerful thing that the Limitless technique has to offer in terms of, like, offense, but still it can be extremely dangerous and extremely powerful. And I believe blue is also the basis of infinity, like that spatial manipulation. But then again, blue is attraction versus, like, repelling, or technically approaching. That's the basis of infinity. So it's an application. Blue is an application of the infinity, or vice versa, but still, it's not actually too intertwined.
You can make things bump into each other. It has a bunch of applications. The only real weakness that I can think of is if you don't have 6 eyes, because it already is draining for Gojo, who possesses the 6 eyes and is maximizing his curse energy usage. Imagine without it. This statement is from Teen Gojo, so maybe his efficiency wasn't as good, but regardless, it should be amazing.
Yeah, even still, once again, it's why I said at the start of the video and why he mentioned it. No 6 eyes, you just can't use the technique. You just can't. Teen Gojo is already a prodigy, considered the strongest alongside Geto. If he, with the 6 eyes, was struggling and getting, oh no, I'm so EP. If he was already struggling like that, then clearly anyone without the 6 eyes just would not be able to use the technique at all. They probably wouldn't have the ability to perceive what they need to perceive in order to use it, and also they would burn through their limited curse energy pool way faster. Remember, Yuda, who burned through his curse energy pool in like 5 uses of RCT, and that exclusively in regular curse energy reinforcement, has more curse energy than Gojo. How much more? We don't know, but still, it's more curse energy than Gojo. And he ran out and bottomed out pretty quick after some regular uses of RCT. Blue, which is already heavily, and the Limitless technique in general, which is already heavily energy intensive, no 6 eyes, you are not using that bad boy. Let's see.
Major difference compared to not having the 6 eyes. So once again, if you don't have the 6 eyes, you're probably not going to be able to use blue that much. Now with red, it's pretty much the same, except if you don't have the 6 eyes, you definitely can't do red, since it's already a complicated technique to perform for people who have the 6 eyes. And,
well, to be fair, it's not even that red itself is that complicated, it's just red ball imbue with twice the curse energy amount of blue in order to double it, because you're multiplying curse energy against curse energy to make positive energy. The main hurdle you gotta leap is RCT. And the reason I call RCT such a big hurdle is, don't let Yuda's prodigy status fool you. Teen Gojo, a giga genius, didn't figure that out until he was on the brink of death. Hay and Error sorcerers, some of the strongest we've seen, some of the strongest characters in the verse, like Yorozu, Uro, or later more powerful sorcerers like Ryu and Kashimo, they don't have RCT. They were sorcerers for their entire lives, presumably, and they never figured out RCT. That's the biggest hurdle you have to get to reach red. I think once you have red, though, or once you have RCT, red itself probably isn't that hard. It's probably the same principle of blue, except you're just imbuing positive energy, which, sure, blue itself is initially complicated. Once you get that past that hurdle and you have RCT, I think you can do red relatively easily. Let's see.
But what's so effective about red is just the damage it does. It's twice the output of blue. Gojo can also teleport, which is something that many people sort of forget. Like, bro can casually...
Because he doesn't do it. Okay, sorry. I'm about to go in a little mini Gojo versus Sukuna rant. He never teleports in that fight. He never teleports. He never. You may be like, well, Pencil, why would he teleport? There's no reason. You think blitzing is bad already just for movement. Imagine teleporting behind someone and putting your foot in their throat, putting your foot on the back of their neck, or even just teleporting, like using teleporting for setup combos. Say remember when he grabbed Sukuna? Imagine he grabbed Sukuna, clapped, and teleported them to the bottom of the ocean, then clapped and got out of there. We know he can do it. We know he can teleport from the deepest part of the Japan subduction zone all the way to some random place in it easily, and cause a whole earthquake doing so. The amount of times he could have teleported BFR'd Sukuna or BFR'd himself, or just to remove and set up and take a break or something. Like, teleportation is such an underutilized ability, but the Limitless lets you do it by folding space, but still.
Do an instant transmission. Then the last thing for the arsenal of Limitless is purple, which is red and blue combined, and it makes an existence erasure blast. But this is no...
well, here's the thing. I don't think purple's existence erasure. I know some people are really like high on the idea that purple's existence erasure, but not only is it never necessarily stated to be existence erasure, we see it tanked. And like, unless you want to argue Sukuna has existence erasure resistance, without a statement clarifying it as existence erasure, and the idea that Sukuna can regenerate from it, meaning it doesn't destroy the soul immediately, and Sukuna never comments on purple ever damaging his soul, I don't think it's existence erasure at all. I think it's a really powerful blast. A good, really powerful blast, but kind of slow. And also, the Limitless does have a limited void. It does have the domain expansion, which is also very, very broken in its own way, and is a perfect setup for a limited void. Honestly, I'd say Unlimited Void into purple is one of the best two-way combos in the series, because you perfectly paralyze them with Unlimited Void to allow you to take as long as time you need to set up your max output purple and just annihilate them while they're paralyzed. So it is a devious combo. I would never do purple into a Limited Void. I'd always do a Limited Void into purple if I had the Limitless at Gojo's level. Let's see.
Known to few even within the Gojo clan. And here's where the trend of the issue with Limitless becomes obvious. If you do not possess the 6 eyes, don't even bother trying to use the technique. You might as well retire early. Nobody said it better than Miguel. The only thing that makes it possible for you to be able to manipulate curse energy at an atomic level to control space are the 6 eyes. And even with the 6 eyes, it took Gojo years of training to get to where he's at, which is interesting because Gojo himself is already extremely talented, and he has all the tools at his disposal that only favor him, and even he struggled with progressing the Limitless technique. But in the hands of someone like Gojo, Limitless seems to have no true weaknesses. So what about the 10 Shadows technique? Well, the 10...
And this is the thing, I agree. If you think, in a very similar vein to the 10 Shadows user, and basically, I almost read it basically 3 times. Just like the 10 Shadows user will basically be guaranteed to not get Raga, it's clear. Well, the thing is, though, we know Gojo was not the person who invented purple. People know about it, which means it was invented beforehand. Same thing with red, same thing with blue. Like, it's known about. It's possible to reach. Same thing with the domain expansion, presumably. So, like, unlike the 10 Shadows technique, where no one until Sukuna tamed Maharaga, it is known within the Gojo clan that you can get the apex of the Limitless in purple. You literally will not, unless you use the treadmill strat with Piercing Ox for Raga. You will never get it. Never. Never. You will never have the access to the full breadth of your technique. Sure, did it take Gojo a while to master it? Absolutely. Did he need to go to literally near death on an RCT to get the rest of it? Absolutely. But he still got it eventually, just being a 6 Eyes and Limitless user. A 10 Shadows user was never getting it. Never, ever, ever. So I think that's too big a hurdle for the 10 Shadows to cross for me to argue it to ever be better. But let's see what Lumiere has to say. It seems like we're about to go into the 10 Shadows because it doesn't look like we're talking about a limited void. Let's see.
10 Shadows is pretty simple. It allows you to summon 10 Shikigami, and you acquire these Shikigami by doing rituals. The only downside to this is that, like Limitless, this technique sort of relies on you being a high-level sorcerer to exterminate the more powerful Shikigami like Maharaga, which, by the way, no other 10 Shadows user has been able to do so, excluding Sukuna. And the worst part about these rituals too is that if you receive help from other people to do the ritual, it nullifies the technique effect, which makes it sort of useless. Now, Megami says that even if it's useless, it can still be useful, so maybe it can work out in your favor, but
it only works out if you want to train. Like, if you want to train your combos without damaging anybody in particular. And if you want to like practice against Raga, hypothetically, like that's the only way it would work. And that's the thing, it can technically help you get stronger and better understand Shikigami. That's what I think Megami means. And then obviously, you know, the whole double KO ritual with Raga, that's technically a way that it has its uses. So I think the uses are training and prep for your own proper exorcism solo ritual, and or double death with Raga. Those are the only two uses I see it having, and that fits, you know, uses plural. Let's see.
We've never seen that happen, and Megami's a fraud. But you can fight with the other.
Leave Megami alone, alright? He's the potential man. He's gonna be the strongest. Yeah, whatever. He's not.
Shikigami you have, which can make a huge difference, because the other Shikigami can help you be very versatile with your fighting style. And that's probably one of the best strengths of the Ten Shadows technique, the versatility you get from each Shikigami. But like Limitless, summoning some of these Shikigami shaves off a ton of your CE, which is why Megami can only summon Max Elephant on its own once. So this technique also relies on you having a very good curse energy reserve. Sukuna does a much better job at showing how OP Ten Shadows actually is against Hirozu, just displaying what we were saying earlier about its versatility. But I'm gonna be real, the only reason why Ten Shadows can compete with Limitless is because of Mahoraga. But once again, if you have the Ten Shadows, if you're not Sukuna or Gojo level, you're probably not exercising Mahoraga, which is a huge weakness because it takes away from the potential of the technique.
And all the biggest issue, and it's one of my more popular videos on the channel, I call the Ten Shadows technique garbage, booty, trash. The fact that you have to work against your own technique for your technique is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. That's like me saying, hey, here's a multi-tool. You have to pay to unlock the rest of it. You bought the multi-tool, you have it, but you can only access the screwdriver part of it. You can't access the wrench or the bottle opener. You can't access anything else. You can only access the screw until you fight it. That is so dumb. That is so dumb. What do you mean I can't access my own technique? It's in me. I have it, but I just can't use it until I tame it myself. That is so dumb. At least for the Limitless, it never fights back against you. In order for you to get better at the 10 Shadows, you have to fight the 10 Shadows. What? What? And for the peak of it to still be less than what a Limitless and 6 Eyes user will get by just training? That's garbage. That's strategy. I don't know. But let's see.
I think at this point I've made it a little obvious of what I'm trying to get at, which is the fact that the techniques themselves isn't what makes a sorcerer strong, but rather the sorcerer who wields the technique is the one who elevates it. With that in mind, on top of all of the pros and cons we went through, we can analyze the techniques at the highest.
See, and you know what? He didn't even cover the full breadth of the 10 Shadows. He just said, oh, you can summon Shikigami. And 10 Shadows has other uses. You can teleport through shadows. You can hide in shadows of anybody, by the way. And you can store things in there. And while those are all useful traits, well, they're all nice, they just don't compare to actual spatial manipulation if you can use it. Obviously, you could possibly lock off the Shikigami part of the 10 Shadows and still be a decent technique. The ability to BFR somebody by dragging them into their own shadow, that's pretty good. The ability to sneak up behind somebody and, like, slice their Achilles tendon, that's pretty good. The ability to store however much inside your own shadow, as long as you're willing to bear the weight of it, that's pretty good. Especially if you are capable of carrying around potent cursed tools like the Inverted Spear of Heaven or the Soul Split Katana, and if you can actually wield the Soul Split Katana, like that can be useful. Just a 10 Shadows user, but that's the thing. You need that supplement. You need that prep. You need to have like a knife or a weapon of some kind to use it to its full potential. Meanwhile, with the Limitless, you just need the Limitless. Gojo doesn't need a sword. He doesn't need a Kamutoki. He doesn't need a Hiten. No. He just needs the Limitless. The Limitless is that good on its own. Let's see.
Level. Now historically, past 6 Eyes Limitless users and 10 Shadows have stalemated, and Gojo himself says that Megami has more potential than Yuji, which Gojo said could rival him in power. So it's like Yuji could be on Gojo's level, and Megami's potential is higher than Yuji, so that does kind of imply that Megami's ceiling is higher than Gojo's, therefore making him stronger and can help the case of 10 Shadows being better than Limitless. But that's not consistent with what we've seen. I mean, it's pretty clear in the Gojo and Sukuna fight, which is the most advanced version we've seen of 10 Shadows, because no one else has tamed Mahoraga. So Sukuna's already demonstrating the best at the peak of 10 Shadows, and Gojo won. But at the same time, that was Gojo. I think it's definitely realistic that some 6 Eyes Limitless users could lose to 10 Shadows, but at least the version...
Someone had made a perfect argument. I had mentioned it. It was in the Manga video that Gambler made. Someone had brought up a good way that actually maybe the 10 shadows user from the past wasn't fodder, and same with the Limitless and 6 size user Gojo head clan wasn't fodder. I forget their full argument. There is a way you can definitely argue it. But I'd say 9 out of 10 times the Limitless is going to win without a Raga interference. Like, it's going to win. And even, once again, like you said, when we saw the peaks of both, even with Raga interference, even with Raga being fully tamed, it just wasn't enough. You take Shrine away from Sukuna and it just won't be enough. The Limitless, it's just too good. We saw both at their peaks, and the Limitless was better. There's just no debate about that. We saw both at their peaks, and the Limitless was better. Definitively. It won that aspect of the fight while dealing with a whole other technique in the hands of the strongest sorcerer of all time, and the Limitless still won. The only way is at the lowest when you can't use the technique with no 6 size. That's the only thing. So yeah, it's not a feasible case for the 10 shot. It's why I've never saw them as equals. I really, like, the narrative pushes it. I think the narrative is huffing that juicy, delicious, wonderful, scrumbly, just copium, dog. I have no idea what Gege was huffing and what, by proxy, the plot was huffing when they said those two are rivals or equals or really even in the same ballpark. It's just not the same. Let's see.
That we've seen, Limitless beat out the 10 shadows. Now, of course, that doesn't mean Limitless is much better than the 10 shadows, because if Maharaga is able to adapt fully to Limitless, it's GG's. But for the most part, it just seems like the Limitless is superior. Like, when you really think about it, it took Sukuna with Malevolent Shrine combined with Maharaga's adaptation to find a good counter to Gojo's Infinity. So in conclusion, it depends on who's wielding the technique, but if we look at the best examples that we have, which was Gojo and Maguna, I think it's pretty apparent Limitless was the superior technique. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe. If you guys have any video ideas,
okay, I thought he was gonna be a bit more contrarian about it. Be like, well, actually, but no, he agrees. Yeah, it's not really debate. In fact, I'd love to see someone make a full hardline, cold stone argument for the 10 shadows. Like, if there's any of you in the comments who want to make an argument for 10 shadows, I want to see it. I do genuinely want to see it, because I don't buy it. I genuinely do not buy any arguments I've heard or thought of so far for why the 10 shadows will be better, even at both at peak efficiency. Unless you want to give it, like, someone not at peak efficiency with the Limitless and then give someone peak efficiency with the 10 shadows so they have Raga. I think the 10 shadows has too many weaknesses, like I covered. It's just it's a little too inferior in almost every single regard, offensively, defensively, and even utility-wise, that I can't really see giving it to the 10 shadows. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please, oh, wait, hold on. A W video by Lumiere, quality JJK content creator. But if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please leave Limitless Shadows. See what I did there? Leave Limitless Shadows in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. To leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, you do have a Patreon down below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Don't mind. Hey, things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You can now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks will include the live reactions, you have the series I'm to review, ad variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you drop 5 beans for a short video, 29 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with a Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Greyhound, Eternal Flame, Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Glacier, XZ, G Prosper, Zeta, and Brandon Payne. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, and A+A. And then I'd like to give a huge thank you to our ink tier members: Fine, Austin Wimberly, Euchiha, Yuki Ally, and Carlo Alaimo. Then I'd like to give a gargantuan thank you to our digital art tier members, J Warrior and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give another gargantuan thank you to our colored art tier patron, Waki Minoz, and Idemokami. Then I'd like to give a final legendary top of the line thank you to our That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, the glorious king, Calvin Elder.